Welcome, Christian. Thanks for coming in today, man.
Thank you
You're
very much for having me.
looking awfully schnazzy inside that
Thank you
jacket.
very much. Did a little mix up the hair. Have
Yeah,
a
I
little
like I
beard
like
right
it. The
now.
new style. I like you
Right?
doing the shaggy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a little more badass than the pretty white boy look I was going
I
for.
saw I saw on your Instagram the other day. You said you're like it's crazy because I have like my old haircut, but I'm just doing it
Yeah.
differently.
Well, I didn't even realize till I put it up one night that I can do what I did in high school.
Yeah,
Um and, but no, it goes down because I look like a little dork when I do my hair
dude.
like
Yeah,
that.
the gel back and the slick. It's like when I see people doing that, I'm like, okay, I get it because I did it
Yeah.
for years and years and years,
Yep.
and sometimes it's just like hard to let things go, but nobody's doing
No.
that anymore.
No, they're not.
That it used to always just be about being pinned
Dude,
slick.
I thought I had the coolest hair too, because I was
Yeah,
like, look at that nice little wave. I got flow.
yeah,
Then I look back and I'm like, what a dork.
dude. I'm just happy I got hair back again. I
Yeah.
I had it shaved for like a year and a half, and then I didn't know if I'd be able to grow it back, and it did. I was like, let's
Damn.
go. Yeah.
I shaved mine for a role once and I hated it.
The shaved head.
Yes. I
Oh,
was I was in a play where I played ex-Marine.
yeah.
So I had to shave my head for it. And that's on my license too. It's
Oh.
just shaved head. Been walking around with that for what, 10 years?
Oh wow!
Almost.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That
Yep.
they just renew the photos here in America? You
Yeah,
just
in Washington, they just renewed the permit photo,
oh, okay.
and so
Yeah, that
awful.
is that a I've actually always it's good. I get to ask you some acting questions because
Yeah.
I've always wondered that with the actors. It's like they're the different hairdos, the wigs, all of that, but you'll see like do they just put do they actually get you to shave your head often? Is that a normal
Uh,
thing or would they usually just put
it depends on what you're working on and the budget for what you're working on.
yeah.
Like I got offered a role once in film. It was just for one day. I think I had 5 lines in a movie, and they were like, "You're gonna have to shave your head for this." And I got my manager to try and talk to them about can he wear a wig? Can he wear a bald cap? And then can we do some makeup on the bald cap to give him that look? And they were like, no, we don't have the budget for that. He's got to shave the head. And it was like I think 250 for the one day I would have been on set. So I was like, no, thank you. And turned that role down because I had long hair at that time, and that would have completely changed up my look and everything if I
Mhm.
would have shaved for one role. So that was one I had to turn down. But the higher the budget is, the more they can just slap a wig on you, put a bald cap on you, do some makeup over it.
Yeah.
So
That
it,
ma-
it really depends.
that makes sense. That makes sense. In in the various roles and such that you're often seeking for because you're multi-talented, like you can
Thanks,
do quite
man.
a bit. We've actually all been in the studio, we've been talking because we've been seeing your
Yeah.
shorts and we've been seeing everything going, we're like
Yes.
he's good, man, like he's really good. And in it, like how so I may be asking some dumb
Yeah.
questions
No,
because
go
I
for it.
don't know a whole lot about acting.
Yeah, that's
I'm
great.
stoked to
I
ask
can
you,
I
man.
talk about this shit
I
all
know,
day.
you can because we get going on this. I'm like,
Yep.
okay, I actually get to sit down and ask the dumb
Yeah.
questions. But in doing so, like, what does prep for a role typically look like? Because I've seen some on your Instagram, like you did like a
Hmm.
vampire and all of that.
Yeah.
And is it so budget's one thing, of course,
Yep.
but how much prep goes into it as an individual as you are prepping for the role?
It really depends on the project and it depends on the role, how much prep I can get. With some of these shorter things like the vampire one,
Mhm,
I just did a mafia one.
mhm. Yeah,
These
I saw that one.
yeah, that one's sick.
That was cool.
All these vertical soap operas, I get this script and I get told I'm cast 2 days before we start shooting.
Mhm.
So I have zero time to prep
So you just
those.
go.
Yeah, I just go. It's really I do a lot of prep on site, but with something like that, a lot of newer actors jump to I'm gonna prep all my lines and be memorized and ready to go in
Mhm,
that sense. I like to prep characters.
mhm.
So and I have the weirdest prep technique that I just picked up and started doing. I'll go to We Spa, which is a Korean spa where everybody is walking around naked, and then
Okay.
you go to the actual co-ed area where there's men and women, and that's where you're clothed,
Yeah.
but in everybody's wearing the same outfit.
Okay.
And I've learned it's a very humbling place to be because you don't know anybody there. everybody's naked, so you're stripped down to nothing,
Yeah.
and then you just walk around. And so I've learned that if I can humble myself in that atmosphere, I can build a character out of that. So I start, I probably look like the biggest weirdo walking around the spa, but I'll walk around in all my nudity and just start building like, how does this character function in this place? How does he look at people? How does he take people looking at him? And then I'll go and I'll sit in a sauna and just think about like what makes this character tick. What do I want in life? I'll start listening to music and let that kind of dictate where I go to. Like in the mafia role, like Violent Crime by Olivia Rodrigo came on, and I was like, great. This guy listens to this song at night and cries about it. And then he wakes up in the morning and kills a bunch of people because he's ashamed and embarrassed of himself. And then I start looking around at all the people in the spa, and I'm like, F you, F you, F you. I hate everybody here. Don't look at me when I'm sad.
Hmm.
And then I have a character that I take to set, and I memorize all my lines right before I shoot them, and really just use the character I built to then react off of whatever my scene partner brings me.
So so it goes on a case to case basis. So some
Yeah.
actors maybe just be studying their lines. That
Yep.
may be their big thing.
Yeah.
And I've always thought about it in the sense of like, hey, if I were to prep for a role, what would I want to do? And I
Yep.
think similarly to you do, where I'm like, it's all about the development of the character. How do I
Yeah.
become that
Yep.
individual, that
Bec-
person?
because once you become that, you start to react as him. And if you you have to read the script and you have to really use the lines to dictate how does this character respond to things? How is this character when he's alone? And you use all that to then dictate how you're going to go about building the character.
Mhm.
The script is just information that you look at. Even in conversations, I'm getting information from you and I'm giving information to you. It's
Mhm.
all just give and take. So you try and wipe the script as much as you can and just pull out the emotion of it and build around that emotion. That's at least what I do. Because if I focus on the lines too much, then the character goes out the window and it's just me reading.
Yeah, because I've seen like clips from movie sets where
Mhm.
actors are forgetting their lines and stuff, and people are
Yeah.
freaking out, and there's all this pressure
Yep.
and whatever. And I think I relate it to like a quarterback in a huddle who just like practices the plays all week and
Yeah.
forgets it when it comes to game time, right? But in that process, you're actually able to focus on the development of the character, and then right as you're on set, you can kind of study your lines, be like, okay, this is the scene that I got to do.
Yeah.
Memorize this line real quick. Go.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and I developed a whole thing, and these like working on these soap operas, they're so cheesy, but I've learned so much from being on this set, in just like how to memorize lines very quickly, how to read a scene very quickly, and then adapt what's the emotional life of this scene, what's my scene partner bringing to me, how can I make it about them instead of about me, and I've learned all of that, but with lines, I have developed my own strategies to memorizing as fast as I can. So we'll get on set and we'll block a scene, which is, figuring out I'm going to move here on this line, she's going to move here on this line. And then, you get the movement down.
Mhm.
And once I have the movement, I step away while they set up the cameras and memorize and then step on and shoot it. And I do that scene by scene by
Scene,
scene.
scene, scene, scene,
Yep. So
scene.
I'm working all day. I
Mhm.
never have like moments where I get to sit down and just like stop because when I'm on set, I'm acting. When I'm off set, I'm memorizing for the next scene,
Mhm.
which works great. And then I go into the scene without an idea of what I want from the scene. I just get to go in. I never memorize my scene partner's lines. I used to do that. I don't anymore. And that way, if I built my character correctly, I know exactly when to jump in and come in with the line that I have.
Yeah, a lot of additional work trying to memorize their lines
Yeah.
too, right? So
Yeah.
it's just like when X moves here, I say this line.
Yep.
When I finish this, they're gonna say something. Whenever they're done talking, my next slide.
Yep.
Yeah, cool, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think our brains would think similarly because how I it I'm stoked to get to ask these questions because I do a lot of assumptions. We've
Mhm.
talked about movies and such in the past,
Yeah.
and I think about uh, when I break down a movie, I like to think about the how in
Mhm.
every which way that I can. Like, how did they produce this? How did they raise the capital to do this? How did the actors shoot this specific scene?
Yep.
What preparation went into this? What went into the outfits? What went into all that? And it's just how my brain likes to think about it.
Mhm.
And I'm sure others think that way too. And so it's really, really cool to actually get to hear that.
Yeah.
And I have such an incredible amount of respect for actors. I had a thought the other day. I'm like, in what career do you get to be like, oh, I went and studied jujitsu for 2 years
Yep.
to get this role. Oh yeah, I'm licensed in helicoptering, in
Yep.
skydiving, in like all like XXXXXX. And after years of spending an acting career, it's like you have all these skill sets
Yeah.
that come into play that you've developed over the years because you became all these different characters.
Mm.
And when you look at it, how an actor does that for movies, a lot of people actually do that in life. You know, like the fake it till you make it
Yeah.
thing. A lot of people, they'll become a character in, in their mind who, if I'm walking into this meeting right now, what kind of person would be the one to close this deal?
Mm.
I'm going to become that person as I walk into that meeting. Um, I remember thinking that when I was like 20 years old and smoking weed and not
Yep.
doing much, but I was going into big boardrooms with, experienced businessmen. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do they want to see right now? I'm gonna have to be that guy. If
Mm.
they're seeing a 20-year-old walk in, like what type of 20-year-old would close that deal? I gotta become that guy right
Mm.
now. So it's so applicable to
Yeah, it
everything
really is.
outside of acting
Mm.
too. Because how often in life do you have to fake bravery or confidence?
Yeah. Oh, dude, all the time.
All
Especially confidence.
confidence, yeah,
Come on.
all the time. You're walking into all these situations nervous, and you're like, I got to become the best version of myself
Yeah.
right now in order to get the result out of the situation
Yep.
that I'm looking for. So, what a cool career.
Well, what's crazy too, I mean, the more you talk about that, the more my mind shifts to like the what social media has kind of done to our nation too. Cause I feel like as people, we're acting even more now because
Way
there's
more.
there's cameras all the
Yeah.
time. And if you equate acting to being on camera, some people are like always on camera. So they kind of develop a new character or side of themselves that fits on the camera, fits on social media. So it's not just like, I'm going to walk into this business meeting like this. Now that there's cameras everywhere, it's like, okay, oh, camera right there. So I got to be confident. I got to be this, I got to be, and especially creators who have built, a um, specific character around them, they have to become that too. Any celebrities who are constantly being watched and recorded in public or wherever they are, they have to kind of whip back into their character that is good on camera, even as people,
Hmm.
not just as actors,
Hmm.
which is a crazy thing.
It is crazy. And you got to act a whole persona.
Yeah.
And how often, like, I've had friends back in Canada or something, people approaching me being like, oh, you met so and so. What are they like? Are they like that on camera?
Yeah.
Or off camera? That's always a question.
Yep.
And it's funny when you think about it, like sometimes you're like, no, not at all. They're
Yes.
completely different off
Yep.
camera. Like that's a persona, that's a social media character that they've created for your entertainment.
Yep.
Just like any actor would for a scene, but they have to live it in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And I've seen this sickness come forth with creators where it's really really difficult if you start your social media career with a
Hmm.
persona, because when you get really big, people aren't able to differentiate that you are not that persona when they see you in person.
Mm.
And then you start to see some people actually become those characters. I've seen it happen with a few
Yep.
people where I knew them before, I saw them putting on this character, and then that character is now 24/7.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And then at a certain part, like if their content starts to do worse and they start to like fall off, um, they don't know who they are anymore
mhm,
because they put all of themselves into this character that's
mhm,
so apart from who they used to be. So once this character falls and they don't have that anymore, they've lost the person that they are besides that.
It's a complete loss of identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts off as something funny,
Yep.
right? Starts off as something with, I have a vision or I want to be this beauty creator,
Hmm.
but you know, you love Yu-Gi-Oh, you love Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
You can't show that side of you on. That's
No.
not what your audience is looking for. Next thing you know, it's like you're looking at that old collection. You're like, you get those little triggers that remind
Yeah.
you of who you were.
Yep.
And that happens sometimes as an adult too. I think every daily person, everybody
Oh yeah.
experiences it, where we go from being children, then a lot of expectations happen on us in our early adult life, and then we're just like, we're adults. But you ask anybody in their in their 20s at all,
Mm.
do you feel like an adult? And some will be like, I guess I've sure faked it
Yeah.
into
I
that,
think
but
most would be like that.
yeah.
I still feel that in some ways. And I'm like, I'm going on my high 20s soon.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
I'd say I'm now in the high 20 mark, and I'm like, I still feel like a teenager at times, but then
Yep.
at other times I'm like, I could walk into any room and hold myself in
Yep.
any room.
Yeah.
Because I too know that they think the same way, that nobody knows what the fuck they're doing
Oh
at
yeah.
any time.
Nobody.
Yeah, at any time. So it's, I wonder how beneficial and detrimental the acting goes into everybody's lives.
Yeah.
Just in reality. Take social media out of it, take shows out of it, take movies out of it. But just everyday people, how often they do it and how often they lose themselves in it, like an actor can inside a role.
Mm.
It's super interesting.
It really is.
What originally inspired you to get into it?
Oh man. So I did it in elementary school.
Cool.
Just as like, yeah, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna do this. Did it, had fun, never thought about it again. I was in a play. I had like a big moment in the play. Then I was like, that was fun. Left that school. Didn't try it again. Then in high school, I was like, theater. I've done that before. That's gonna be an easy A. Signed up to take that, and the drama teacher really loved me. Or maybe she just, liked me and wanted me for a certain role or whatever. But she like really tried to convince me to do a play, which I was like, I can't do that. I can't be like one of the weird theater kids. I'm not doing that. And then last minute, I was like, why not? I'm going to do it. Went in the audition for the play, got a role in it, loved it, and then loved going to class even more because I just liked the people that I was around a lot. Kept doing it through high school because it was just so fun. Snuck off to the only college that I applied for because I liked their theater department and continued to take classes there. And when I was in high school, it was about like I liked being on stage and having people clap for me and stuff like that. When I got to college, I got drilled in my first acting classes emotionally, and just like I think I was crying on like day one of my first legit acting class. And the more I took classes, the more roles that I took on, I really fell in love with the storytelling and the moments that you get to share on stage. There's I love that you get to connect with the audience and walk them through whatever you're feeling, let them connect to it on a happy note, let them use it as a mirror to see themselves when it's either good, when it's bad. And then you get to connect with people on stage. And I think one of my favorite things is I had a friend who was like, I hate callbacks because theater callbacks are just you reading with a bunch of other people. I was like, I love callbacks because I get to read with like 7 people I've never worked with in my life and share whatever connection we have on stage. I think of like the UFC when 2 people fight, it's like they're forever connected through this fight. And it's the same thing with auditions and callbacks and just, acting in general is you share a connection with the person that you're on stage with that, in theater it's ephemeral and that connection never happens again once the show closes, once the scene is over. And in film, it has a means of lasting forever. But that connection was really important to me.
There's a digital staple to it. There's very few things that derive that amount of human intimacy with strangers.
Yep.
And I believe that once you have a connection of intimacy with somebody, that you kind of there's a staple on each other forever.
Yeah.
After that, so the amount of relationships that you develop with absolute strangers that leave an imprint in your mind forever,
Yep.
and you could see them walking randomly somewhere here inside the streets of Hollywood or whatever, and you see them and you're like, I've shared an extremely intimate moment with you,
Yeah.
and I don't know your name.
Yep.
But I know the freckle under your eye.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. I did a what would you call it? Like a test or a the word's slipping my mind right now, but eye gazing. I had to sit and just stare into somebody's eyes for it was like 5 minutes. Complete stranger. I cannot get those eyes out of my head after you've spent that much time. And you look at actors and actresses and the intimate moments that they have to have and then leave forever. I know nothing about that person, but I remember the eyes.
Yeah.
And when do we do that? It's rare.
Yeah.
What a cool career.
Rarely. So rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a rare phenom that just as conscious creatures that we're able to do what we do, where we're able to identify ourselves as something else and become that version of what we identify as. And being able to do it is such a beautiful art that I can see why you devote your life to it.
Yeah.
What's next for you? What are you trying to do?
Oh man, I just got a new manager.
Yeah. Well,
And
congrats.
thank you very much. And now that I have a new manager, it's about finding a new agent.
Yeah.
My old team worked really hard for me. But over time, I just left the bubble that they're really connected in. So it's about finding a new team and finding new people to push for me. So I'm working very hard at auditioning as much as I can. And that's a big part of the new team. And big thing I've taken to all my meetings is how many auditions do you think you're going to get me? How are you going to get me those auditions? Are you actually going to go the extra mile to call them? So it's right now auditioning to find as many opportunities as I can and hopefully get in some of them. As well as continuing to work on my own page and just mess around on there. It's become like a playground for me, my Instagram and TikTok, where it's like I want to try an action scene, so I'm going to do an action scene. I want to do a love scene. I haven't done that in a while, and I'll do that. And I think every scene on my page is just a challenge for me of like, can I do it different from the actor who originally played that part? Can I bring my own authentic self into it without, being a copycat of whatever work they did? And then can I get to, whatever level of depth I need to get to for this scene? So it's just me messing around, having fun on there.
I think it's more than fun just for yourself because it's fun for us to watch.
Hey,
Yeah,
there we go.
it's cool and it's getting reviewed really well. Like
Yeah.
viewership's been awesome, growth has been awesome.
Yep.
People like what they see, and it's like what a cool way to practice.
Yeah.
too.
No, it's really fun.
Yeah, that's so badass. The moving on to new management and a new team, I think a lot of the time when people are looking at actors that it's like, oh, they must just be they see them in a few films, they're like, oh, it must be easy in that. But building up your team, you yourself are a business.
Yeah.
You're a brand.
Yep.
You've got to have a whole entire unit around you that's pitching and working for you 24/7 so you can focus on your art.
Yeah.
How difficult has it been as you've had your previous team that, you soaked up everything that you could, you
Yep.
tried, you decided just like sometimes bosses need to fire good employees just because it's not the right fit a lot of the time. Now, how have you found navigating that side of your businesses?
Oh, it's abysmal. It's awful. It's like, I started going to my college and I have great professor who teaches an acting for film class, and I go and speak in that class every year that he lets me. I think I've been doing it for the last 3 years. And I tell every actor, like, be brutal when it comes to your team.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody tells you to do that. And as
Mm-hmm.
actors, we're all so focused on people and our relationships with people that we sometimes let, a lack of work slide, or we let the fact that we're not getting anything slide because we like the people so much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened a lot with my team. I was like, I love these people. I know they have my back, you know, personally, but when they're not working for me, it's been really difficult for me to be like, hey, this doesn't work. I have to let you go. And, the process of getting rid of my manager was like a 6-month process
Mm-hmm.
because I had to get to an emotional level where I was like, I have to cut this off so that I can continue in my work and in my career. As much as I like the people, I'm getting to that point where I have to be cutthroat as a businessman, which is hard because acting is such a personal job that on the business side, you have to, let go of the personal side of it and just be cutthroat and business minded. And that's really how you make it. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if someone's not doing their job, you got to fire them.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're, your friends or they're close to you, it
It's tough.
becomes significantly harder to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you spend that much time, years, a lot of the time with people, you develop a relationship, and the emotional side of it can often be more tolling. But
Yeah.
it's your business, man.
Yep.
Yeah, so you got to make those hard decisions and make those moves. Now, when it comes to getting on with a manager, I assume I've met with a bunch of the agencies, and I've talked with a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
the big guys or the big players that
Yeah.
everyone's trying to get to, and it seems like there's more of a correlation of success when you have that individual that's willing to fight for you
Yes.
inside of an organization.
Yes. I met with some big managers within some big companies, and I decided to go with a manager who's just starting up her own company
Mm-hmm.
because she was super dedicated to fighting for me.
Mm-hmm.
The minute I said I'm going to sign with her, she was like, "Great, I have friends who are casting for Euphoria and Stranger Things right now. I'm going to call them up and I'm going to get you an audition there if there's any roles for you. I have a friend who's doing a movie. I'm going to get you an audition for that movie immediately." Already making the calls and getting me in the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
A bigger management company has more connections, but if they're not fighting for you, you're just going to be on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be a picture on a casting director's wall.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a shark who's out there really fighting for you, calling casting directors, getting you in the office, emailing them, sending your profile, sending your scenes, all of that, you're probably not going to get auditions. So it's way more about the people than it is the company.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. My assumption was that if you don't have somebody that's absolutely fighting for you, then you're just gonna get passed by time and time and time and time again. So it's cool that you believe you found somebody that is making that fight for you. And so far it sounds like it's going good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. What outside of acting per se, when it comes to, we've talked about uses of social media and such in different ways that film can actually be produced for much cheaper, and these massive budgets out in Hollywood are kind of ludicrous, a little ridiculous at times. That it's like, I get it. Some amazing films come out, but also the amount of talent in production for very, very cheap budgets. It's wild to me. It's wild to me how much money gets dished here on shitty projects.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how much money was Madam Web? How much money got put into that? And that, like, that was not a good movie.
Dude, I was at that premiere, right?
Really?
Yeah, I was at the premiere, and I'm in the audience for Madame Web, and it's like, you're surrounded by everybody who dedicated like a portion of their lives towards this, and you don't want to like hurt anybody's feelings or anything.
Not at all.
And,
Yeah.
like,
I
there was
always
comical moments, like, seriously comical moments.
Yep. Yep. I developed a rule at the because I did a lot of theater,
Yeah,
so it was all in person and whatnot. But I developed a rule that I don't talk about the thing until I'm 10 minutes away from the thing.
yeah,
Then I can talk about it, just so
yeah,
I don't hurt anybody's feelings, because a lot of work doesn't go into it.
yeah.
And I think with a project like Madam Web, it probably could have been a good project, but Dakota Johnson made a really good point in an interview where she said that movie was made by a committee, and movies are
Mm,
supposed to be made by people.
mm,
And when you put that much money into it, it's the companies that are putting all that money into it that really want to see that money go somewhere. So they, create a committee and create people who are going to dice the movie apart and say everything they want and need about it. And then it takes all the art away from it.
mhm,
You need an artist to go out and make a movie that will
mm,
actually get people to think, instead of a committee telling you what they want to see. Because
mhm.
then you make a product that's for the committee instead of for the creator. Denis in Dune says he made a movie for himself. And look at that movie.
Mhm.
He was the only audience member he was creating for. And look at what he did.
I heard Tarantino say the same thing.
Yeah.
He's like, I made movies for an audience of me.
Yep.
I didn't think that other people would like this type
Yeah.
of film, but turns out they
But
did.
it's the humanity that people grasp to. And if you have a committee, now you're grasping to the humanity of 100, 1,000, 10,000 people, and then you just get lost in there. And there's too much information. And if you're adapting to everybody, then you're adapting to nobody. But if you have one person who's like, I'm making a movie that really means something to me, just by that effect of humanity, it's going to mean something to other people.
Hmm. Yeah, so you take the individual. That's why leadership is so crucial.
Yeah.
Um, I've heard people. I've been pitched to
Hmm.
where people are collecting funds together.
Yeah.
It's like we're investing in movies or a
Yep.
movie and this, and it's like you said, a committee, and you get all the wrong feelings. But when you take an artist, and an artist does, he's like, it's going to be very specific who puts their
Yep.
money into this.
Yep.
You might not get a return because it's going to go how I want it to go, and you allow the artist to actually paint. And it's such a it's a weird financial model,
Mm.
because most businesses you're investing in and you expect to get your return over years and years.
Yep.
And in movies, it's like you see your results real quick
Mm.
most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yep.
There's those little golden nuggets who surf up from a long time ago, which is cool. But I think from the financial side, how many of these guys must get it wrong, just trying
Yeah.
to push money into the returns of
Yep.
shoving out entertainment.
Well, and when you have people who come in from the financial side who aren't artists, don't have that artistic mind, um, and they get involved and they start like, no, I think you should do this and this and this and this. It's like kind of watching an actor act for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have talent, but they haven't put in the work to really develop that talent. So
Mhm.
what you get is a weak performance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, an investor who throws in all this money and then suddenly wants to be a director, you're just getting a very, very untrained eye that now has command over a project. And then that project ultimately fails, or it might do well. Maybe the financier has been watching films for 20 years and actually has some good ideas.
Yeah, he's actually, this has been
Yeah.
his goal forever.
But that falls into collaboration.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a set that's collaborative, where all these artists are throwing in these ideas and being heard, or being, run through the filter of a leader who's able to say, that works, that doesn't, this, let's try it. If you don't have that kind of energy and you just have one person being like, here's the idea, we're going to do it,
Mm-hmm.
then it'll probably fail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so many of them do.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a resurgence of low budgeted. Really,
Please,
yeah. I think
please.
there's gonna be a
God,
resurgence
I
of.
loved the writer of American Fiction, whose name I can't recall right now, in his Oscar speech was like, don't make a $200 million movie. Make 20, $10 million movies.
Yes.
Give, authority to people who want to tell stories and let them tell stories. It makes so much more sense to do that. Like, diversify your portfolio. That's business 101.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that people really hear that and they start letting independent filmmakers do their thing and make art, because that's what people want to see. Oppenheimer won so many Oscar awards. That's because they let Christopher Nolan do Christopher Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a committee attached to that told him, you need to do this, you need to do this. They let him make his movie, and he made that movie for himself. He made it for Cillian. He made it for Robert Downey Jr. He made it with the company of collaborators he wanted to work with, and that movie did incredibly well.
So amazing. Yeah, did really well this past week. Eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think it was 7 wins.
Yeah, that's insane.
Crazy.
That's insane. Yeah, you see a lot of these successful films on low budgets. I saw one the other day, like I think it was Napoleon Dynamite. They put $500,000 into that, and it's like a classic.
I love that movie.
I love that movie too.
I love that movie.
And I think about the finance world, and you know what? Getting anybody to put $1 into anything is difficult. I'm not going to pretend like it's not.
Yep.
But once you get good at it, you get good at it. And you can get people to put money into really silly things. Classic example. Let's talk about NFTs, crypto, all of that. People were dishing out millions and millions and millions of dollars into JPEGs, stuff they like. Now, the money is out there.
Yeah.
In this country, for sure. The money is out there. And I feel like more of the creative ideas, they just don't know how to speak the financing language. But as equipment, as talent becomes more and more and more accessible, cameras, lights, sound, all of that, you have way easier access to than you did even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago. So as filmmakers have access to doing these things, I think that they're actually going to be able to get their money in front of small time investors now. Because if I went to you today and I said, Christian, we got $5 million. Let's make a movie. What are you going to say? Let's make a movie.
Yeah, I'm going to say my friend Ashton has a great script.
Yeah.
Read it and let's make a movie.
Yeah, let's make a movie. We're going to talk to people. We're going to have fun with this. And a lot of people will be willing to do so. It's just, I don't know the way the industry is, how many people have the voice to actually pitch to those individuals, to be able to speak the language of the producer.
Yep.
Trying to get the financing to do this creative project. I really hope that we start seeing more of them come out.
Me too.
And more places to watch it too, because it's like the big time streamers, like they're dishing out, they're just competing with each other, and they're spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to do original shows. And then you see somebody come up with a short series on YouTube, and you're like, that was really good. Yeah. Like really, really good. I find myself seeing your shorts and I just want to see more.
Yeah.
I want to see more of this.
Yep.
That. And how much would you say the average one costs you? Collectively.
Yeah. Oh man. Is it like $100 altogether with like renting the space? Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's quick, it's easy.
Half a day's wage. Like anybody can really do it these days.
Yeah.
Right. What would your advice be to an actor, an up and coming actor? Let's say just graduated college, came down to Hollywood. What would your advice be?
Start making stuff.
Start doing stuff.
You have a phone, make stuff. You have friends, make stuff. Not even to like come up with a product, but just to learn through it. Like dude, The reviews are great on Instagram, but there are some reviews that are terrible. Like
Yeah.
I posted one scene and it got like 4 million views, and I think every comment on that scene is like, "They did it better. Watch the real movie. They did it
Yeah.
better." And I'm like, "Okay, I tried." And and that's a scene that I'm like, I'm so proud of. I love the work that I did on this scene. I love the take that I did on it. And it's like you can shut it down as much as you want, but I learned a lot through that scene and I was able to exercise a lot on that scene. So thank you for the views and thank you for building up the comment section, even with the
They're
negativity.
still commenting.
Oh yeah, they still are.
Yeah.
And they're still watching.
Yeah, they're still
Probably
watching.
a few times.
Hopefully it makes somebody else watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just got to make, even if you don't end up posting it, show it to your friends, get notes from them, go on, make something else, make something better, and just keep working and exercising. It's so hard, the life of a new actor,
Mm-hmm.
because the dream is that you get to act.
Mm-hmm.
But in today's society, you got to do so much more to prove your mettle in the industry. If it's not handed to you on a silver plate, which it is for, very few people, they get lucky. Hopefully they've done the work to really like earn their spot that the luck gives them. But if you don't get lucky, you have to work, 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 work. And sometimes you work to get lucky. I think luck finds people who work their ass off every day.
I agree.
And so you got to constantly be, if you're going to class, bettering your craft, great, you're working. If you're creating stuff, great, you're working. But you got to put yourself out there so that luck eventually finds you. And when it does find you, you can take advantage of it instead of, potentially bubbling to the surface and sinking under.
Do you find that some naturally talented individuals are able to just step into it? Or is it, no matter how naturally talented you are, you can't escape the work side of it?
I'm naturally talented. That's why I had a theater teacher tell me I need to be in a play.
Yeah.
I have done 12 years of acting, 7 years of training. I still have so much to learn, and I will be learning until I'm 60.
Mm-hmm.
You can have natural talent, and that's really great, but you got to work on that natural talent.
Mm-hmm.
If especially in an industry like this, you got to be 10 times better than the best.
Yeah. The NBA athlete could have naturally sunk the ball into the net pretty easy, but he didn't make it to the NBA without work, right?
Kobe Bryant, how many times do you think he shot free throws?
Well, yeah, he was able to go to the NBA straight out of high school, but
Yeah.
how hard did he work that year?
He was probably the first person in the gym, the last person out every day.
I think that one's documented.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like natural talent, woohoo, work hard. I had a teacher. I love my teacher in LA. Her name's Holly Gagne. She's brilliant. She comes to class every day and she's like, yo, work. I've seen very, very, very talented people come into this class, not work. They're my waiter now. I've seen people who are robots come into this class, work every single day as hard as they can. They're on Apple TV right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about work.
With age, you realize that this is a pattern in life. In football, there was a number of guys who were so talented that you looked at them and you were just like, he's going to the show for sure. Now, given some of those guys did.
Yeah.
But there was a number of people who you'd see in college and university and you'd be like, how did he get in even? Who gave this guy a shot?
Yep.
And they were just willing to go and do the work every single day.
Yeah.
And then now I'm in my late 20s and a bunch of the guys that I see in the pros, I was like, dude, I was one of those doubters for you. Like I thought, who gave you a scholarship? Maybe they didn't give you a scholarship. Yeah. Somehow you got to the next level. In high school, I thought you were a scrub. And you're pro today. And all those great players are sitting on the couch. Maybe a couple of them made it too.
Yeah.
But more so, consistency and hard work will always be talent. Always.
Fully agree.
With you on that one. Yeah. So with the rise of social media and acting, I've seen that it's almost like a different, like social media acting and acting is
Oh,
two
man.
different
I got to
things.
sit up for this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. Tell me your opinion. I've been looking forward to hearing this.
I can't stand social media acting because I think it's so fake. And it's so funny because like people will say, "Oh, you're an actor, that must mean you're a good liar." I'm like, "No. The job as an actor is to be as honest as possible." And with social media acting, which is you ad-libbing material or uh, you know, maybe you're reacting to a sound or something like that. Acting is a give and take. It's a game of tennis that you sit and bounce off of people. If you have nobody to bounce off of, then you're just hitting your own ball. And that's not acting. Alan Rickman, rest in peace, he hated people auditioning with monologues because you can sit and work on a monologue all day and get really good at crying and, really getting into the feeling of that monologue. But if you can't listen to another person, which is the fundament of humanity, if you can't do that on stage, you aren't an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's 80% of acting is being able to listen to the other person and respond to them.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok acting, you completely throw away the other person.
Memorization. Yep.
So everything is cerebral and everything is made up in your mind, and you hit beats because those are the beats you've cognitively decided on. If you're acting like that with another person, you're not feeling what they're giving you at all. And so, yeah, I've tried TikTok acting, and I've like, because I was like, I'm an actor, so might as well do this. Maybe it's the
Working
next
for
big
some
thing.
people. Yep.
Ugh, it's awful. I feel gross whenever I do it because I'm so caught in my head about like, oh, gotta cry here. Oh, gotta change my emotion here. And it's like you can do all that, and that's really cool. But if you aren't listening and responding to another person, you're not really acting.
It takes a lot of the human reaction out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how often when you're on set that you may get confused on your line, or you may, you've got the person in front of you, but you're
Mhm.
actually reacting to the great acting of the individual in
Yeah.
front of you. You can feel the emotion coming out, and it brings the emotion you're supposed to do coming out of you regardless,
Yep.
or changes up the scene in a whole different way
Yeah.
that the director loves.
That's when it's the most, brilliant thing. That's my favorite thing about acting. I did a callback 2 months ago, and I was this company brought me on to lead callbacks and just read with all the actors auditioning to play the part across from me, and I read the same scene with 12 different people throughout that day, and the last person who read it with me brought so much of her own personal life to the scene that having done it all day, there was like a specific line where she would yell at me, I would yell back because I'm just responding to what she's giving me. And this person got to that line where she was like 11 people just yelled at me. And she like looked away and then came back and then started crying through her line. And I had never felt that line hit me the way it did. And I started crying too, responded to that. And then she got cast immediately. We were like, yep, we're going to bring you in for the role. Thank you. We'll send the contract tomorrow. And that's the beauty of acting. And if you're doing TikTok acting, you lose all of those moments, which are real human moments. I mean, the reason that scene did so well is because she read that line different than anybody. And she read it with all of her emotional life that she, holds inside. And it was just a really beautiful moment. And you don't get that when you're acting to a camera.
No, you do not. And in a room by yourself too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have the eyes on you. You're not working with other people. You don't have anybody to correct you really for the mistakes that you make,
Yep.
which we all need.
Yeah.
Like often.
Oh, often. But you can correct yourself and you can do, 50 takes of the same, go from happy to sad. And do that 50 times until you really nail it.
Now, although the TikTok acting is annoying and detrimental.
Yep.
What do you think how do you think socials is benefiting actors today?
I think it gives them a space to create. I think, it's up to the actors to create what's meaningful to them. Um, I took a big risk on my page. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it does not, because I'm doing something that nobody else on social media is doing.
Mhm.
But I think it's a phenomenal tool to get yourself out there. The manager that I'm working with now fell in love with me because she watched all my scenes on social media. It's a great tool to get out anything you're creating. Rec Daniel, he's on there making short films all the time, testing his mettle as a director, and really, working through that. He's doing something that a lot of people aren't doing on social media, and he's taking a risk with it. And sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's a brilliant chance and brilliant place to really show who you are as a person and what you can do as an actor, what you can do as a filmmaker. I have friends on there who don't do acting at all. They're just comedians and they're funny and they show off their personality so beautifully that as an actor, they get more auditions because people really like them and fall in love with them. I mean, likability is so huge in the industry. It's like I see a person and I'm like, I want to work with you. Great, let's see if you can do this role. And now you have an audition because of that. I think it's a great tool to get yourself out there. I just think you have to use it correctly. And I think, with TikTok acting, I know a guy who has 10 million followers, gets over 10 million views on all of his acting TikToks. That guy has not played a single role in a movie, not a non-union film, not a union film. And it's because he's missing the give and take, which is so important to acting.
No, I think you brought up a really good point where it's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool, and
Yep.
just like a hammer can be used correctly, it can be used incorrectly.
Exactly.
And it's cool when you see people come into their own and they start using the tool in a way that actually benefits them, like you said,
Yeah.
with Rec and like what's happening with yourself. Because I've seen a shift where it's like Christian the influencer and Christian the actor.
Yeah.
And it takes a shift and you're like, oh, he's using the tool in a way to gain what he actually wants out of his life.
Yep.
Because many actors, they may get in a film, they may get in a show, and they may get a bit of a following, and they start playing the influencer game because it's a monetary tool that can help them pay their bills.
Exactly.
And credit to anybody who does so, because hey, we're all just trying to eat and have a warm roof over our head. And
amen to that.
Yeah. But it's really sweet to see when the shift happens where you're using it as a tool to help glorify who you actually are. Because many use the tool incorrectly, like you said at the beginning, where they'll put up a whole different persona of who they are.
Yep.
And we're acting in a different light. We're wearing a mask and not showing our true colors to the public. So it's really, really dope to see people use the tool correctly to say, hey, everybody, this is who I am, and fearlessly, I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah.
Keep doing it.
I will.
Yeah, keep doing it.
It took me a while to really find, my wave on social media. I've always wanted to combine social media and acting. And when I tried TikTok acting, it just felt so inauthentic to everything that I've learned over the past 12 years that I couldn't do it. And then, I was actually in here at OneFluent talking to Zane, talking to Rec, talking to just a few people trying to like formulate this idea of I'm just going to do scenes and do scenes vertically with another actress. And now I get to actually sit and have a moment and share that moment. It's what I love about acting, sharing a moment. I get to share that moment with another person. I get to film it, and then I get to post it being really proud of my work. Sometimes I do well, sometimes I don't. It's so funny because sometimes I'll be like, this is my favorite scene that I've done. And it gets like 50,000 views in all three clips and
It's
full
funny
scene
how
that
that
I
works,
post.
eh?
And
Yeah.
then I'm like, God, I hate this scene. I didn't like the choices. I think I was, pushing a bit much here and didn't really delve into this, whatever. And that one gets 8.6 million.
Yeah, it just
And it's like,
crushes it.
what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how that works. The seeing the success in the random acts by just putting yourself out there.
Yep.
Like it's just part of the fearless act of doing
Yeah.
it. Like you said, just create, put it out there. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Go and create again.
Yep.
Do it again, again, and see what happens with your life. See what type of actor you develop into. See what
Yeah.
type of person you develop into. See what type of opportunities that it leads you into.
Yep.
Maybe it's not just acting. Maybe you get more on the production side of it too.
Yeah.
Do you like working other than just an actor? Do you like working on the other side of things too?
No.
No, you don't like it?
No. I'm good at it,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
You'll
You'll do it if you have to.
Yeah, I'll
if
do it. And right now I
leads to
do
more
have
acting.
to. Yeah, like right now I'm directing, producing, editing, and acting
Crazy.
in everything that I'm doing, which is phenomenal because I get to learn so much through it. And I have a team that's really great and they collaborate with me really well. I literally could not make what I make without that team because they're all smart and they work with, if I'm trying to direct, they'll be like, what if we did this and this? And as long as I listen to them, 99% of the time they're right. I just have a good team, and that goes back to producing. If you can come with a good team and produce a good team, you're set in all areas. But no, I don't like it. I want to act. That's what I love to do. I want to that's my biggest passion right now. Eventually, I'd love to try my hand at directing. But I'm not ready for that yet. And I think directing all of my stuff now has proven that I'm not ready for that yet. That's something I want to get to eventually. But right now, my passion is acting, and that's what I want to do. And I'm like craving the time where I get a role and just get to do that. I don't have to think about the camera angles. I don't have to think about making sure everybody can work on the same day. I don't have to think about getting everything there. I don't have to think about deadlines. All I have to think about is building the character and living truthfully in that character. That's what I want to get to. So right
Your
now,
art. Yeah.
exactly. Right
You'll
now,
do it all if it
I'll
means
do it all
doing
if I have to.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't want to. I want to sit down and do the one thing that I love, and I want to let people who are better than me at what they love to do that.
Yeah, man. In building businesses, it's the same thing.
Yep, I bet.
Exact same thing.
Yeah.
You have an idea, you have a vision, and you want to be the guy on top, the puppeteer, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, and you're driving the boat, you're driving the vision, you're making sure that all operations are heading towards your goal.
Yeah.
And at first, you have to do everything. You have to wear 20 different hats.
Yep.
You have to pretend to bring a different version of yourself out.
Oh, yeah.
And be the accountant, be the lawyer, be the negotiator, be the one doing the input, be the one hiring, be the one XXXXXX. But it's a beautiful place when you're able to start replacing yourself. And that's what you're doing with your team.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing with your team. And then as notoriety comes up and reputation and opportunities, and momentum is just a beautiful thing in all industries. As soon as you build momentum, you're really, really able to capitalize on it. And it seems a lot of the time like it happens overnight, but years.
No, you got years of work behind that. Years and years and years. It's so funny too, because earlier you were like, I have such a high respect for actors. I'm an actor. I got such a high respect for every single person who works on movies. Because the craziest thing, I remember thinking this when I was watching, like, of all movies, Ant-Man. And there was a sequence in Ant-Man where, like, there's a hill and there's a car going down the hill and there's things that are turning big, things that are turning small, a whole fight happening, a car blows up, all of that. And then at the end of everything, like, Ant-Man saves the day and you get a close-up shot of Paul Rudd. Beautiful man.
Stud.
I thought about that scene when I saw it, and I was like, there's probably over 100 people who made that scene happen. There's people whose job it was to make a miniature version of that and make sure like we can catch everything on camera, figure out someone who's figuring out where the cameras go, someone who's building all the miniatures, someone who's building all the sets, someone who's, making 10 people who are making the car blow up, everything like that. I got such a high respect for the people that do all that on movies only to like give it up for the lead actor to like take the spotlight and stare into the camera. And like acting is a difficult job, but I feel like everybody who's not an actor doesn't get credit. I mean, I was like, shame on me, and I'm going to call myself out on it. I was talking about an Oscar-winning writer who wrote American Fiction, and I couldn't remember his name, but I can remember Emma Stone. I can remember Robert Downey Jr. I can remember everybody who was nominated for Oscars who are an actor. It's those people who are so talented. A movie does not come together if you have a bad writer. And I know that because I've tried writing stuff and it's terrible.
I saw you share they started giving out the rewards for casting directors. Yeah. Like it.
Yeah.
And, I even think about, the casting directors and stuff we've had here for our social channels.
Yep.
And you see the amount of work that goes into it. And when you made that post, I thought about it. I'm like, holy, they never, like, the guy who found the guy.
Yeah.
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 Like that's
Yep.
holy, because you look at some movies and the mixture of the cast is what made the movie.
Yep.
They drove the story even a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Just perfectly casted. And
Listen,
you don't think about that guy.
whoever cast Chris Pine in The Princess Diaries 2,
Yeah.
they deserved an award.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was the start of like Chris Pine's career. That's what blew him up. And God, did he do that role so well. What a hot, charming man he is. Whoever put him in that role deserves an award. And yet, I can't even remember their name.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
flowers to them.
Yeah, it's crazy too. I was talking to a casting director once, or I was in an interview with a casting director, Paul Ruddy. He was doing a Q&A, and he made this point that in Oscar speeches, nobody has thanked a casting director across all Oscar speeches. And it's like they are influential in putting together a movie that works, and a movie where people work well off of each other. It's crazy.
And how many other positions can we even just name?
Yeah.
Right? Like there's so many. Yeah, it's so cool to see all the work that goes into film. Yeah, I love doing it on the small level that we're able to do it on social channels and stuff, because it requires so much work. It's so cool to see, but really want to see it big one day.
Yeah,
it's a goal with it. But that's we're at an hour, and that's the time that I got today.
Look at that.
So, dude, thanks so much for coming in.
It was a pleasure to be here.
It was
Thanks
awesome.
for having me.
I was stoked to have this conversation, and
Yeah.
thank you to everybody who decided to listen. It's at Christian Seavey, right?
Yep.
That's your name? Yeah, go find him over there. He'll be
Beautiful.
putting up dope stuff. You can see these acting skills go to work.
Yeah, baby.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.